Animal rescues are rarely calm. Most of the time they unfold in chaos, sirens in the distance, panicked breathing, sharp hooves or claws flailing in blind fear, and rescuers knowing that one wrong movement can turn compassion into catastrophe in a single second. Wild animals do not understand intention. They only understand survival. So when a resident of Fulshire, Texas stepped into the backyard of a house still under construction and found a full-grown deer tied to a tree with nylon rope wrapped tightly around its antlers, he didn't see just an animal in trouble. He saw desperation. The deer's chest heaved. Its eyes were wide with terror. Every muscle in its body was straining against invisible panic. The man immediately called authorities. When Officer Kevin Zisheng Wright arrived on the scene, he expected something routine, perhaps a stray animal tangled in debris or caught in fencing, but what he found instead was something that felt deliberate. Someone had tied the deer there. Who would do that? As officers approached, the deer jerked violently against its bindings, hooves scraping the dirt, head twisting as rope dug into its antlers. It could have injured anyone who got too close, but Officer Wright moved carefully, voice low, movements controlled, cutting the nylon rope piece by piece until finally the deer was free. And then something unexpected happened. It didn't run. Body cam footage later revealed the moment clearly. Instead of bolting toward the woods like instinct demands, the deer simply stepped away from the tree and walked toward the back door of the house as if unsure where freedom was supposed to lead. Fragments of rope still dangled from its antlers. Officer Wright gently removed the last strands. Still, the deer remained. It stood near the officers, breathing heavily at first, then slower, calmer. It didn't charge. It didn't flee. It leaned closer. At one point, the officer scratched gently beneath its chin, a gesture no one would normally attempt with a wild animal, and the deer allowed it, almost pressing forward into the touch. It was not fear in its eyes anymore. It was confusion, maybe even relief. "I was trying to spook him," Officer Wright later said, laughing softly, "to get him to run back into the woods, but he wasn't having it. He wanted to hang out with us." When the officers returned to their cruisers, the deer followed them across the front lawn like a curious dog. "He's not scared at all," the officer shouted in disbelief. But that was the problem. A wild deer that isn't afraid of humans is not safe. With the animal's survival in mind, the officer eventually chased him gently back toward the woods, watching until he disappeared beyond the trees. It should have ended there. A simple rescue, a short story. But 2 days later, during a televised interview about the unusual encounter, something moved in the woods behind them. The reporter squinted. "Sir, is that him?" Officer Wright turned slowly, and there he was. The same deer. Watching, waiting, as if he had come back not out of habit, but out of recognition. And this was only the beginning. The deer stepped slowly out of the tree line, calm as ever, ears alert but body relaxed, as if he had returned not to wander but to check on the man who had set him free. Officer Wright couldn't help but smile. "I'm going to call him Uncle Buck," he said softly, as the deer approached once more, stopping just a few feet away like an old friend revisiting familiar ground. But beneath the warmth of the moment, there was concern. A deer that trusts humans too easily does not survive long in the wild. Authorities contacted Texas Parks and Wildlife, and what they discovered added another layer to the mystery. Uncle Buck had been roaming the neighborhood for weeks, approaching children, wandering near homes fearless. Perhaps that kindness had been what led someone to tie him up in the first place. This time, there would be no second chance. Uncle Buck was relocated to a protected sanctuary, far from streets, far from cruelty, somewhere his gentleness would not become a liability. But not every deer is lucky enough to walk away. In December 2015, on a quiet forest road, another deer lay motionless on the cold pavement, struck by a speeding car, blood matting the fur above her eye as headlights flickered past. When wildlife rescuer Simon arrived, he expected another routine emergency. Instead, he found fragility. He knelt beside her, whispering gently, "All right, sweetheart, it's okay," as her trembling body pressed weakly against his knee, leaving a red streak across his jeans. The injury was deep, the trauma worse. He lifted her carefully into his arms, holding her like something far more delicate than her size suggested. Knowing that deer do not handle stress, well, that fear alone can kill them through something called capture myopathy. At the rescue center, stitches were placed, pain medication given, but survival was not guaranteed. Simon carried her back to the woods where she belonged, supporting her trembling legs as she tried to stand. Twice she collapsed. Twice her head dropped backward, a silent sign she was ready to give up. But Simon refused to let her. "I know you're hurt," he whispered. "But you can do it." Minutes passed like hours. Then suddenly her ears lifted, her legs steadied. She stood alone, and without looking back, she walked into the trees. Simon stood there in silence, eyes wet, watching her disappear. Because sometimes rescue is not about heroics. It's about believing even when the animal almost doesn't. And sometimes that belief is enough.